everybody, welcome to the second session of the first episode. After extracting the parts on your laptop, now wherever you want to extract your file, because we don't want to update the whole files every time, I just update this part, this study part, as you can see. You can just name it whatever you like. I just named it study. At the beginning of every session, I'm going to put the files here that we can just apply any changes. And at the end of every session, I just put everything also here that you can check the codes. So before I start teaching you the Three.js, I should mention that fact that, as I told you, you need to know the JavaScript. Or at least you need to know the basics of the JavaScript. Although I'm going to just mention some parts of it, and you need to improve your knowledges in this area. But as I said, it would be better if you know at least the basics of the JavaScript. But for the people who know the JavaScript, I need to say that we can learn the Three.js in two different strategies. So we can write the Three.js as a program like other programs, that one of them is functional. And I also teaching you the Three.js in a functional way, because it's the easiest way and everybody can understand what I'm saying. But the people who are professional in JavaScript know that the standard way of learning programming for Three.js is this way, like the classical way. You know already that all gamings, or if you find any complicated programs on GitHubs, they are all like this. So they are all programmed in a classical way. But since it's a little bit complicated, I just decided to ignore it because I needed to just explain all the details here. And that was the reason why I selected the functional way to teach the Three.js. So for running the files, as you know, we need a web server. And for this reason, we can easily search on Google web server for Chrome. So we go to Google and we search it. You need to install it in the first place. I already installed it, and you just need to click on Launch App, as you see on the screen. It's really important here. When you select on the Choose folder, you need to click on the main folder here. So if you select the main folder, it would load also the libraries here. So I'm going to open it here on Chrome, as you see, and then I go to the study, and then I select the basic HTML. So now this file is running here, and it's a simple Three.js object. So hey friends, happy to start the first season, third section with you. So I'm going to explain now everything that is necessary for you to know for a scene on Cinema 4D. In your HTML file, you need to pay attention here that the file that you want to add as your script here should be module. So its type, it's supposed to be module, as you can see. And you don't need to do any import map if it's here on the node mode. In any case, if you have any question, you can just send me an email and ask me in any parts. If you think it's a little bit complicated, I'm here to answer your questions. So at the same time with the downloads file, I'm going to put some of the defaults also here in case if you have any questions. So now we can officially start with teaching the first serious part. The most important part in the first thing is that you take this container from your screen out. Look, you have a div here that has a specific ID. So the div is supposed to be qual selector, and when we want to use the camera and render, we can use them. But before that, you had to make a canvas here as well. And you probably know what is canvas, as I'm showing here. It's just a window that can shows you the paintings, etc. But now the render shows all of these things. And I'm going to just explain everything with more details to you later. The most important thing in the beginning of making of any Three.js object is a scenes. So every single Three.js project needs a scene. So for adding everything like lights, shadows, everything that you want to just add to your project, you need to have a scenes. As a result, we make first of all a scenes. You see, we imported the Three.js with all of its objects as Three.js, actually as three from the library of Three.js. And now we can use any of them that we want, like scene, like perspective camera here. So when we imported the library, we take the div here, and you take that you want to append your scene there, and then easily we make a scene. It's actually not that much complicated, as you see, and it has no detail setting. It has a little bit settings, but you don't need to know them actually. So first thing that we need to have is a scene, and the second thing that you should have is the camera. Actually, camera shows the object that you have on your scene. We have actually different types of cameras, like cube camera, perspective camera. So we just start with perspective camera, and then I'm gonna explain and show you the other types as well. So as you see, every single camera has 4 inputs. And this one here is the F. With F, we can actually calculate the depth of the camera. So for example, the depth of the camera, the depth of the scene, actually, sorry, I meant the depth of the scene. In this case, with this camera is 75. Okay, let's take a look. It is now a camera, and it's a really simple scene. And it also has an animation that I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna actually show you it with the animation that you can see how it just moves. Later words, I'm gonna just explain how you can make an animation as well. So as you saw, it was the F. For example, now I can change the F to 175. And now we take a look. You see, now it's the depth of the scenes. So the camera don't get distance, but the depth of the scenes is just wider. In Cinema 4D and 3D Max, I'm gonna explain it to you as well later words. Usually they set it in 75 to 90. But of course it depends to the scene that you're making. So, and another thing is the aspect ratio. You can add like this, the aspect ratio. And later I'm going to teach you how you can responsive that. And the third input is the closest distance to the camera. Somehow that we can use the render. I mean, the way that it could be shown. As you see, I put it on 0.1. You can also change it by yourself. It means how much that the camera can use it can get close to the object and take it still. And the fourth element of the inputs shows the most distance of the camera from the object, as you saw on the screen. So imagine you have an object, that your object, the depth is on 75. It wants to just say, how far away shall I show you behind of the object? For example, sometimes you have an object on Metaverse with thousands of different objects that they have different depths. So these objects cannot be shown at the same time and on the same level. And sometimes some of the programmers and some of the friends say, why I cannot use the renders for the objects that are so far away from my main object? So you need to change this number here. So it is the less distance, the 0.1, and the last one shows the most distance. So every camera has a rotate as well, and also a position. And it shows how the camera can rotate and where should be the position of the camera. Now the position is on 3, but if you forget to change the position, you cannot see the object because you are inside of the object. So you should have a little bit distance from your camera that you can see your object. So F was about depth, but this is about the distance of the camera. So you see, doesn't matter how I change my F here. For example, I can put my F on 175. Still, we don't see anything. You know why? Because we are inside of the object. But when we have a little bit distance from the object, then we can see it. As you see, I change it now here. And then you can see the object as well. And we can also change it. For example, now I change it and put it on 13. And then I refresh the page. And you see, it's like this. Now it is our distance. It's not the depth of the scenes. Okay, now the third option that we need to analyze here is the renderer. What is the renderer here? Renderer actually gives you this opportunity that you render everything that is on the scenes. And as a renderer, we have different types of WebGL renderer. So there are some explanations that it would be better if I just tell you them right now. It is really important. You should put it on WebGL renderer. And let me just show you here. It is really important setting. 99% of the cases, you should put it on the WebGL renderer. And you can just leave it like this. You don't need to just change it. But I come here and I show you here the renderer. You see here we have different models. For example, WebGL multi-renderer targets. WebGL render that we use actually this one, and it's different versions, and they actually work a little bit different from each other, but generally we use this WebGL renderer here. And okay, it has a little bit complicated options here, as you can see, and I don't want to explain about all of them here, but some of them are actually really important, like this part, alpha, context, and like deep. It is actually different parts and that we should just talk about them later. Hi everybody, first season, 4th section. I'm here with you. When we make a new object from a render, we should set its size actually. And you see here our size is not responsive. So for example, what's happening here? So you see, now we are just changing, but our subject doesn't understand it. So as you see, it needs to be responsive. So when we change the aspects ratio of our scenes, it needs to be changed. So it should be on the middle of the scenes, for example, but it's not here. Actually, if we refresh the page, it would come in the middle of the page. It would come in the middle of the scenes. Let me just refresh the page here. And you see, it came just in the middle of the scenes, but it's not responsive. So it answers in the now, but at the beginning, it doesn't answer. So when we change the size from the document body append shield, we give the renderer here. These are just some simple pre-settings that you should do them. For the APIs that use LGL, it's useful, but it's not that much necessary for you. So you don't need actually to memorize all of these informations. You can always use them here. And you can also use its responsive version. From this part, actually, it's gonna get important. So now we have a 3D object on the scenes. That's a cube. Look on the tutorial of Three.js, as you see here, it is mentioned how you can make geometry. I'm going to explain you all of its part. And as you see, there are different shapes of objects here on the geometry. I mean, actually, even if you go to the geometry part, I opened all of the objects. That's the reason why I'm just searching now. So, for example, capsule. As you see here, we have a capsule as an object, or a circle. Or I can just select on the cylinder. We have all of these options here. And I'm not going to explain actually every single 3D objects here, but I'm going to tell you the most important ones. So, the thing that we have here, okay. Actually, it's really important here that here we need to make a geometry as a first part. What is geometry? Actually, it means we need to make our 3D objects here. The Three.js has pre-objects here for itself on the website, but as professionals, we cannot use these pre-objects on the Three.js. But you should learn them before you get your objects from Cinema 4D or 3G Max, etc. It's necessary that you learn these pre-objects of Three.js to go to the next level and be professional. You can actually input your 3D objects from other programs here, and I'm going to teach you laterwards. But it's really important that you understand, when you are reading these codes, you understand what is happening on the scenes. So first you define a constructor here as geometry, and then you make a box geometry. Box geometry has been defined on the Three.js website. I showed you. So we made a geometry here, but we didn't give any input, as you see. But as you see, we need to give the width, height, and the depth. If we don't give these informations, it's gonna consider everything as one. So library considers everything as one if you don't give any information. I'm gonna give, for example, 2. And here you see that our object gets double. Interesting. Or for example, if we change it to 10, you will see on the scenes that our object will be shown much different. So it's supposed to get 10 times bigger, yes. So the point is, if you don't have any material, you cannot have any object that you can show. You know what I mean? So there is no object if you don't have any material. So for adding an object into the scenes, we need to have 3 options, 3 parts. First is mesh. So mesh is actually our 3D object. And the geometry are the spots that have made our 3D objects. And a mesh has been made out of 2 parts, which are geometry and material. So every time we need to actualize it and make it new from the 3. So when we want to make a geometry, we make a new box geometry, and then we add the mesh. Okay, now we have a model of material. So it's one version of having material. So it's just an example. Later words, I'm going to explain you how you can change its color, etc., or how you can make a new material. But for now, it's really important that you understand the box geometry and the mesh. So now here we have a default material. So in the documentation of the box geometry, if you go, you will see that it's going to give us some X, Y, Z, etc. in a form of plane. So it gives us actually some pages that shows where is its X, Y, and Z. And as you know, a cube has been made out of six parts. So actually, I don't want to jump into the details, but in the main library, the thing that is happening is like this that you are seeing here. How a cube is being made, and when you make a geometry that it's from a box version, it shows the special features of every single X, Z, Y. So yeah, here as we made the geometry, but we cannot see it because it has no form, no shape, and no color. If we give these options to a geometry, we make actually a material. So we give also the materials after the geometry, and then we have our mesh as we explained it. So the mesh is actually the combined version of the geometry and material. So the object that you get is out of geometry and material, which is called mesh. I think I repeated it in different versions. So at the end of the day, we should have everything that we have here, like lights, like objects or the helpers that I'm going to explain you also later, come to the scene. And we should add them all on the scene. So when you add them all on the scene, at the end of the story, I made here an animate function, as you see, that now it's not necessary for us. I don't want to explain it now because I want to teach the animation separately. So at the end, we're going to define the render. As you see, we made it here once. We actually asked that you should render our scenes and our camera. The animate function that I just deleted here, the function was based on the frame rate that your monitor has. The animate would just repeat it from the beginning and the beginning and the beginning. So it was being repeated and repeated. And it made it to be circled. But since I deleted, our object will be stable without moving. So now you see it like a stable part because we are just seeing it from one side. So our object got rendered once. Till this part, we learned how we can make a new object. So for an example, what I'm gonna do here, instead of the box geometry, I'm gonna make a sphere here. So a sphere geometry. Okay, now it's not possible because my keyboard is actually in German and I need to pause the video. Yeah, that's the problem of living in Germany, guys, you see. I need to pause the video. Sorry, I'm gonna get back soon. So I added here my German keyboard as well, and I can type here now easily. Now you can see that in the shape of a sphere geometry, it asks you only two options. The first is the radius and the segment. So the question is why? The answer is so easy because it's a sphere geometry. I think actually after this video we should really talk about the segments and the vertex and also polygons in order to be able to understand it totally. When I finish this, for sure I'm going to explain it to you in the Cinema 4D, that you know what is segment and vertex. I'm going to show you here just one example, and I'm going to finish this part. So here I'm going to also change the name to the sphere because it's not the cube anymore, and I'm going to add it also here. So every single new thing that we make, it's really necessary for us to add it to the scenes. And I'm gonna do something new also here. You know, if you make the material one time, it's enough. So I'm gonna make here one material, and I'm gonna name it a sphere. I just named it material, and I'm gonna just add here the position of the sphere, like a sphere dot position dot x equals, for example, 3. Let's see how it is. So it's supposed to be shown like a circle. Exactly. you see these bricks here is because of the segments. Our segments are not enough. If I put it on 100, you will see that it's gonna get softer. So I'm gonna just make the size of the camera also smaller. So like this. Now, actually as more the numbers of the segments are little or fewer, the bricks on our object will be shown more. If I put it, for example, on 5, it will be like a pentagon. No, actually there is something wrong here. I think it wasn't saved here. Let's refresh the page here. No, it didn't become a pentagon. I said it wrong. Let's see. But anyways, it became really fewer. Let's put it on 2. Now, yeah, perfect. You see, as you see, but it wouldn't have any animation. It wouldn't have move because it doesn't have any animation. But it was like a pentagon, like a circle that has 5 sides. I actually don't know how can I interpret this. But it was like what it is, as you saw. But in the other parts, we're gonna also check the other options, other objects with lights, etc., that you can see it better. So here I'm gonna make a copy, as you see, and I'm gonna put it on -3, and instead of cube, we're gonna just search to see what we can select here. For example, capsule is also good. You see, you just copy it here and paste it here. So easy. So actually we want to learn. So the copy paste is not the big deal. The most important thing is that we learn. We have now one geometry. We will make it 1. We don't need any material because we wrote it up there. If you want to make a new material, let's make a new material. And let's also change the color, that you can see what's happening in this case. Let me just put these two also FF. So it would be material second, capsule, because our mesh in this case is the capsule. We add the capsule here. So you see here the geometry should be always the new geometry. I'm gonna change it to 2, geometry 2, and here also geometry 2. And it got added to the scenes. So we will have 2 objects actually. If you wanna see it easily, I'm gonna give its position as well, -3. Let's see what we have actually in this case here. Come the capsule. Yes, as you see, the capsule is here, but they don't have any animation. Let's just analyze some objects like this. I think we can even just prove the segments also in these parts, because I think it's really useful. Because I think it's even easier than Cinema 4D to explain it here to you. I can easily teach you that here, and we can examine it here also easier. It is here now a circle, as you see. So we have a circle, but we see here actually an S-square. So what happened here that you are seeing an S-square? The reason is that, so it is actually a library that makes the geometry of an object on the scene. So we get the geometry of an object. What is geometry? Geometry actually shows the connecting parts of an object on the scenes on your computer. So this object will be saved on the memory of the computer like some pods, as you see, some connected pods. And we make these objects to the 3D in order to see them. So with connecting the dots and making the scenes and connecting the scenes together, we can see them. And if you reduce the segments like this that you are seeing, now it has 3 segments. This object wanted to be a circle, but it's not a circle because we have only 3 dots in this case. You see, now I'm going to change it to 5 and we will have a pentagon. So if you put more dots in this case, you will have a circle. Let's just change the dots here. And yeah, there is still some bricks here, as you see. If you can see in some games, they don't have that much quality, or you see some bricks on it. They are like this because they wanted to reduce the amount of data. So they had to use these ways, and they had to just make their objects with more bricks. But in a simple object like this, there's no difference, even if you put it to 1000 dots. Yeah, let's just try to change it to put 100 or 1000. But important is when you want to apply these things to the complicated objects, then you will see the difference. So imagine in all of these objects, it's X, Y, Z should be saved. So every single of X, Y, Z of these dots should be saved. So if the segments are fewer, the file size will be also lower. And it will be easier for processing, for rendering, etc. So let's make one simple also from here, that we see exactly this object that is here. So I literally made a copy paste. We don't need any material in this time. We have also our material, which is written up there. I just want to show you that once you make a material, you don't need to copy it anymore. But if you want to have them on the same color, I'm going to write it here, geometry 3, but you can name it somehow that you understand it's a new object. Because when it gets full of information here, there's a possibility that you forget. And this time I'm going to give the position like, yeah, let's give this time -3. I think it would be good. So I'm going to teach you also the position here as well. So let's see where's the new object coming. Yes. So we have the third option here. Let's make it 1 and change the other one to 5. Let's refresh the page. Oh, where is it? It became too small. Sorry. I was supposed to give it -6 that it goes somewhere else. It is now inside of the capsule. Okay, now it's out. You see it. So now we have here also different types of objects. And the most important one is the box, the circle, the cylinder, and a page that you can use it. Let me just find it here. Yeah, exactly. It was here actually. Yes. So the surface is also one of the most important ones. And you see these width segments and the high segments. Okay, I thought I can teach you everything here on Three.js, but actually it's not possible. I mean, I need to just teach it to you on Cinema 4D. Then I can explain you with details the meanings of the segments. So I'll stop it here and I'm gonna bring the Cinema 4D and I'm gonna explain it to you in the next session. Have a good time.